Today, we have a true story of an amazing roadside rescue and what happened next. Hold on to your seats, because before we can get to it, we have to share this story first. It's sure to pull at your heartstrings and inspire you to be a better person. Our first story takes us to Lake Vyvozero in Russia, which is located far up in one of the northern regions. During the winter, it becomes a frozen sheet of ice sloshing with snow and is inhospitable for most visitors, including wildlife. However, some journeys must be taken, and so it came to be that one day a mama bear and her two young cubs were faced with the fact that they had to cross the lake in order to get to their destination. It was surely a terrifying prospect, but likely the crossing had to be done in order to find food, and so the mama shepherded both of her cubs onto her back and set off into the frigid water. It soon became clear, though, that the crossing was much more challenging than anticipated, and the mama bear was struggling to stay above water and was becoming more and more fatigued the longer she stayed way down in the lake. While it might seem unthinkable for human, animals are generally more practical-minded, and the mom knew what she had to do to survive. She shook off her cubs into the water and continued the journey to shore on her own. Without their mother to help them through the water, the two cubs are left floundering and confused. While they are able to keep their heads above the surface, they didn't quite understand how to propel their bodies through the water yet, and after a few moments of struggling, were simply left drifting in the current, cold and exhausted. At this point, their mother had made their way over to the opposite shore, and while she was looking back at them, she wasn't making any moves to come back into the water to help them. Likely because she was so tired herself, the two cubs began to drift down the current, and it was then that they noticed a boat not far from them. While they probably didn't recognize what it actually was, since of course their bears are not humans, they definitely decided that the boat looked solid enough to climb onto, and they began to slowly make their way over to it. At the same time, the occupants of the boat, two fishermen, could not help but notice the two bear heads that seemed to be making steady progress towards their vessel. While the sight of two bear cubs heading towards them must certainly have been adorable, it also must have made for a rather confusing and slightly terrifying picture. The men weren't sure where the cubs' mother was, and they knew that mothers can be extraordinarily protective of her cubs. However, they were kind men and didn't want to leave two young animals without assistance. They'd managed to pull up close to the cubs and, through some trial and error, succeeded in getting them up on board. Later, one of the fishermen even said he felt like he had a special bonding moment when he and one of the bears locked eyes, almost as though the bear knew that the two men were helping them. While the fishermen weren't able to locate the mother, they'd managed to speculate on the area of land where she would be found, and so they safely delivered the cubs onto shore, where hopefully they were able to reunite with their mother. While it might seem sad that she abandoned them, it's important to remember that animals act differently than we do. Mama bears love their cubs, but this mama just did what she had to do in her situation, and hopefully the story ended in a beautiful and emotional reunion. Well, that sure was an incredible story. Can you imagine seeing a bear up close like that? It must have been an unforgettable experience. But what the man in our main story experienced was even more amazing, if you can believe it. But before we get there, we are going to flip the narrative and talk about a different kind of hero. What kind, you ask? The feline kind, of course. While cats are many wonderful things, we don't typically think of them as heroes, do we? Well, that thinking might change after you hear this story. It was the spring of 2020, and Scott White of Each in Canada was enjoying a peaceful sleep in the wee hours of Sunday morning when he was awakened to find his cat exhibiting some unusual behavior. White had gotten his beloved feline from an animal shelter a few years earlier and named him Joey. He had quickly become a member of the family and was a friendly and loving pet, but on this particular morning he was acting strangely. White woke up to find Joey pacing around the room and purring loudly. He even climbed onto White's chest to ensure that he woke up from his slumber. Even though Joey liked attention, and this kind of behavior, especially while White was sleeping, was highly unusual, and White felt immediately that Joey was trying to tell him something, so he got out of bed. When he ventured out of his bedroom and made his way into the kitchen, he understood immediately why Joey had been so desperate to wake him up. Before White had gone to bed the night before, he had placed a slow cooker on his counter and left it on overnight. Slow cookers are designed to cook food at low temperatures over a very long period, so that you can make something like a stew or chili, and time it so it's ready when you want it with all the flavors deliciously blended together. White was likely planning a tasty Sunday morning breakfast, or perhaps was preparing his meals for the week. However, whatever dish he had been preparing was soon forgotten, because when White entered his kitchen, he found the entire room filled with smoke. The slow cooker had malfunctioned and overheated and was likely only minutes away from filling the kitchen and the rest of the house with flames. Thankfully, due to White's protective and intelligent kitty, a crisis was averted and White was able to safely turn off the slow cooker and air out his house before anything dangerous happened. We all know how devastating house fires can be and how quickly they could spread, so it was truly a blessing that that cat was in the house that night. As it turns out, White also has a young dog who he assumed would be the more likely animal to alert him in the case of an emergency, but as it turned out, the pup snoozed through the whole event, so it's unlikely that he'll be promoted to the role of house protector anytime soon. It really seems like Joey is going to have that title for a good long while. White promised reporters that Joey received extra love and attention and thanks, and you can be sure that his owner will. And now we get to a truly remarkable story. It all happened one fateful day in 2015 when one of the staff members from Hillside Animal Sanctuary in Frettenham, UK, was driving late at night. The man was on the way to his destination when something on the side of the road caught his eye. With a sense of dread, the man pulled over, and when he got out of his car, his worst fears were confirmed. A beautiful adult female deer, commonly referred to as a doe, was lying dead at the side of the concrete. Being an experienced carer of animals and feeling deeply for all creatures, the man went to examine her to make sure there was nothing he could do for her. When he reached her, he saw that she had indeed passed away, likely from a collision with another vehicle. However, just then, the man saw something that made his heart skip a beat. The doe was obviously pregnant, and the man could see that a large belly was moving. Knowing that he had to act fast, the man rushed back into his vehicle to get his knife and made his way back to the doe side. Although the man had not performed a caesarean before, he knew the theory after having watched the procedure performed on a sheep. Although the moment must have surely been nerve-wracking, the man also knew that if he didn't perform a caesarean right away, then 2 lives have been lost, instead of the already tragic 1 life that was already gone. So likely with a wish for the best, the man who, as to remain an anonymous hero, made the cut and miraculously managed to pull out the fresh baby fallen without harming her. As soon as the baby deer was in his arms, the man wrapped her in his jacket and made sure to check and clear her airways so that she could take her first breaths properly. He then took her into his car and rushed over to his boss's house from Hillside Animal Sanctuary, where the young deer was immediately surrounded with love and care. She was given medication and dried off with several towels and a warm hair dryer. Once the fallen was cozy, she then received colostrum, which is a special type of milk that pregnant moths produce for their young once they're born. The fawn was in a very precarious condition when she arrived into the world, but against all odds, she managed to thrive. After her rescue, the farm moved in with the man who saved her, and not long after that, she imprinted on him, which means she sees him as a mother figure and will follow him around in an adorable display of affection and trust. The fawn continued to steadily improve, and although she doesn't know it, she became famous around the world. When photos of her story were posted on the sanctuary's website and received thousands of likes from people blown away by her incredible story. Who knows if guardian angels are real? But it's hard not to believe in them when that fawn was lucky enough to be rescued by the most perfect person. Few individuals would have known what to do or had the skills to pull it off, so it's very lucky that he was there to save the day. Well, that's all for the day, folks. I hope you liked this video. Please share and subscribe to our channel. Also press the bell icon to never miss the update from our channel. Thank you.